So much
after this vote earlier this week.
Right. So we have to have an update on where we are on the bill because it did not pass the Senate this week. Right. It is called the For the People Act. It was introduced in 2019. We saw Joe Manchin side with Democrats last minute, but he had not said he was going to accept these sweeping changes, had some changes he had wanted. We are expecting senators to go state by state.
State by state. I mean, there's a number of laws that are being debated in the states. And also, this particular bill was huge. I mean, like somewhere around 800 pages. So there was a lot to dive into. But as Kamala Harris said, she believes the fight is not over. And our next guest, we'll have to see if she believes that as well.
Absolutely. And joining us is Representative Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas. Representative Lee, thank you for joining us. We would love your reaction to the Senate Republicans' blocking of this bill.
Well, if there ever was a defining moment on whether or not you believe in the Constitution, believe in the American people, or just believe in the next election and your own ability to suppress the vote so that you could be the victor, that was the moment led by Senator McConnell. I don't think it was a stellar moment for the Republicans. I think they will continue to be defined by that, to my dismay, but also for a very sad commentary on the belief in democracy in this nation. They're the losers yesterday, but I do believe that the Vice President was absolutely right. Between the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, obviously the 13th Amendment, which eliminated slavery, in the midst of all of that, there's the affirmation for all Americans to vote. And the question for all of us as leaders of this nation, congressional leaders, responsible for Americans' rights and as well constitutional rights, it is the access. And what is happening across America is the absolute denial of that access. I think it was good news yesterday for Democrats. They were united. Senator Manchin obviously thought and believed in his commitment to democracy along with his colleagues. I believe that they will immediately begin to work with the House, work on a strategy, and work with the White House. And you'll see the White House now take a major stand, a major leadership role under Vice President Harris, who knows these issues very well. And I think there's going to be a complete turnaround on how we approach this and get a voting rights bill under S1 out, and then ultimately, which is H.R. 4 here in the House, a John Lewis bill out as well.
Yeah, and Senator Lee, I want to ask you about that because there is the John Lewis voting rights bill that you just mentioned, but also you mentioned Senator Manchin. He has a compromise bill that he has also put out there. What do you think of that? Would you be supportive of something like that?
Well, I've always said that I am open to reviewing, discussing, and even engaging in how what someone has offered can be made better, or to help them understand what other aspects should be taken into consideration. You know, we're in a life or death struggle for the hearts and minds of the American people, but also their rights. And there are too many people that will be left out of empowerment if they will not be protected when they go to vote. As you well know, I come from Texas. The SB 7 was a return to past sins, if you will. The idea of videotaping disabled voters, the idea of a judge with limited authority to be able to overturn an election by the people of that area. These are dastardly acts. So we have to make a difference. In Senator Manchin, Senator Sinema, Leader Schumer, Majority Leader Schumer, who's done an excellent job, understands that our House, under Nancy Pelosi, is committed to both bills. We moved out the H.R. 1, and we are going to move the John Lewis bill. I think you should note that there is a Supreme Court decision that is about to come up before the end of June that deals with Section 2 of that bill, of that law. And so we would have to address that question before we move anything to the United States Senate, but we'll be moving quickly. The idea I want to convey is we will sit around the table. Democrats will get this done. We hope we'll get 1 or 2 or 3 Republicans, but we will not compromise on one thing, and that is the right to vote and the depriving of individuals who've been suppressed, who have traditionally been suppressed in this scheme of voting in America to be suppressed forever and ever and ever. We cannot have that happen.
Representative, give us a sense of what it's like on the ground now and the texture of the conversations that you're having with your Republican counterparts. Is it contentious? What are they saying? Where is the ability to compromise?
There is some. Obviously, there's a sense of urgency, and we're in our camps, if you will. The Democrats are committed to the fact that they cannot leave this session without voting rights being signed into law by the President of the United States because of the majority that we received, and a very strong majority, the highest turnout, the highest number of votes between President Biden and Donald Trump in the history of the United States. The idea that the big lie, the detrimental, cancerous big lie that is permeating society and our state houses, we know that we have to be the cure. And so we're looking for Republicans that also have a undying loyalty to the Constitution. That's all we need. There are those in the House that we've engaged in. In the 19-hour markup that I just came out of in the Judiciary Committee, we had some bipartisan moments on some important initiatives. We think in the Senate, after the vote of the Democratic conference, Democratic members of the Senate, and they saw the unity there, that there'll be some opportunity. But again, the bill that the Senate proposes and passes will have to engage House members, and so we hope that we'll be in conversation to get that done. I am in Voting Rights District. Congressional district I represent, the 18th Congressional District, sent Barbara Jordan to the United States Congress as the first African-American and woman to go to the United States Congress since Reconstruction. And, you know, we just got through celebrating the national holiday in Juneteenth. So it's very sacred to me. That means the courts have drawn my district because the state legislature continues to want to eliminate my district. And even now, we have those challenges going forward. If I didn't have the Voting Rights Act, the district would not be here today. I know the reality of both those bills, S1, H1, S4, and H4, HR4. And so with that, we realize that there is no compromise of not having the bills. We must. And with President Biden, Vice President Harris, that's the new strategy, leading from the front. I think we're going to get there for sure. The American people, 70% of them, believe that everyone should have access to voting and the right to vote.
Representative, do you think corporate America has a role to play here? We've heard from a number of companies that have speaking out on this issue. What would you say?
Absolutely. They are, in fact, beneficiaries of the goodness of this country. Their prosperity is tied to the way we behave under the Constitution, their free speech, their due process, their right to access to the courts, their right to have representation on their views or policies that impact their business. Certainly, one of the aspects of correction is to ensure that we don't have massive influence of money to skew elections, but corporations are beneficiaries. For that reason, I applauded and have applauded those corporations who want to be good civic citizens, and also that they represent or they have the talent and the population of workers that make them successful. Those workers, when they leave that place of economic engine, must have the responsibility to do their civic duty, and that duty must be protected. Corporations absolutely should be engaged in the empowering or the advocacy that people should have the right to vote and access to vote. That is more important for them and their work than to be part of those voices that believe in a big lie.
Representative, I'd love to get your thoughts on the topic today of infrastructure, given that we are seeing President Biden seeking to really push forward this ambitious plan. What would you like to see out of how this bill turns out in Washington?
Well, there's no doubt I'm on record for really supporting the $2.25 trillion plan. We have not had a major infrastructure overhaul in the United States for more than a decade, I recall. I've been involved in these. My first act in Congress was to vote on an infrastructure bill That was some 27 years ago. But I believe in the infrastructure plan, the climate plan, the cyber rebuild plan, and the care economy plan. I know that there are many discussions that limits it to the idea of infrastructure, roads and bridges and streets and dams and otherwise, and hopefully maybe some additional additions dealing with climate, dealing with the cyber. So here is where I am. America needs this bill desperately. The president has done an excellent job in putting forward a plan. There are many plans being offered that I'm reviewing at this point. And as a member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, we know the history of those who are most vulnerable are most in need. Let's see where we get in terms of all of us coming together. But here's another one that I'm going to say that's absolutely an imperative. We will pass an infrastructure bill, and the President of the United States will sign it.
Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, we couldn't thank you more for your time. Jen, some really interesting notes that I've taken here. The idea that she sees compromise on this highly contested bill that unanimously was blocked by the Republicans.
Right.
So very excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, she still believes that there is room to debate this and discuss this. And she, as Representative said, she believes it is time to stop depriving individuals traditionally suppressed of the vote. And so it's looking like maybe we're going to get a step closer to it.
Yeah.
Just 2 days out from that blocking of the bill. So.
And the White House involvement that she talked about.
Right.
So coming up, we'll hear from the ACLU on their efforts to fight for voting rights for all Americans. We'll be back in 2 minutes. This is Quick Take Charge.